Hey guys, it's Holly. So today we're going to be talking about one of those sets that I really wanted as a kid, and that was the Pizza Planet truck rescue from Toy Story 3. Now this is set 7598, and when I bought this on eBay about a year ago, I paid 200 Australian dollars to get it sealed. So this set did go up quite a bit. Considering when it was just on shelves, it retailed for 40 US dollars. The Toy Story franchise though is like one of my favorite movie series ever. I mean, besides the fourth one. So having the Pizza Planet truck was just a must for me, and it's something that I've wanted for so many years. So I am really excited to show it off to you guys today. This is set 7598 and has 225 pieces. So let's go and take a look at it. Here is the set all built up, and before we get into the truck itself and the unusual scale of it, let's have a look at all of the minifigures / characters in this set. First up is the man himself, of course, Buzz Lightyear, and not sort of the weird fake Buzz Lightyear, the Chris Evans version. We have the classic toy Buzz Lightyear, and I absolutely love this minifigure. I mean, it's no surprise to me that then when they did bring him back for Toy Story 4, they reused the same sort of chest plate as well as the wings and the helmet cover. I mean, it works perfectly. The only real thing that they updated in those sets were the legs and the torso, and of course, the head. But to me, this custom molded head is perfect. Like, that is actually Buzz's face. It's incredible. I love the way it looks. I mean, I think this overall is just an absolutely fantastic rendition of the character. But one thing I also love about it is the fact that it's built up using a bunch of different parts, so you can actually take the wings off and you can have Buzz without the wings, which I mean, admittedly, he did sort of look like more in the movie throughout it. And then you can also as well take off the little spaceman cover and just have him with his head and that chest plate, which definitely I think is what a lot of people, when they think of Buzz Lightyear, would probably picture in their head. So I absolutely love that fact. You can really customize him to however you want him to look. And admittedly as well, like this, he's going to fit in the Pizza Planet truck a lot better. Underneath that chest plate as well, there is a tiny little bit of printing with the Star Command logo on his chest, but really there's nothing special. There's also a little bit of back printing, which really you can't see at all, but it's, I guess, a nice touch anyway. But I really feel like this is the prime version of Buzz right here. And I mean, you can't have the Pizza Planet truck and not have one of the classic Pizza Planet Toy Story aliens. I love these guys so much, so it is so good to get one of these in this set. The head, I think, is absolutely perfect and spot on to the character, and again, I'm really glad that they did it and put it in this set. However, some of the colors on the torso just don't overall look that good. I feel like the purple on him is a little too dark for what it actually looks like in the movie. The Pizza Planet logo, though, looks really good, and overall, I think for 2010, this was an absolutely fantastic figure. However, they did improve on him a lot later on when they came to remake him. Next up is Ham, and while he's technically not a minifigure, I really wanted to showcase him as sort of a character because he is very important and very prominent. Now, overall, just like the rest of the minifigures and characters in this set, I think Ham is fantastic. The mold for him is spot on and so perfect, and I love the fact that they even put in a little rubber stopper on him so he can actually work as a piggy bank. If you wanted to put some of the Lego coins in there, you could totally do so and have the whole thing work. I absolutely love him. He only takes up as well 4 studs on his legs there. However, his head does protrude a little bit, but he is spot on and just looks so perfect and so accurate to how he is in the Toy Story franchise. It's a real shame that they only kept him in these sort of original line of Toy Story sets and never actually remade him when they brought the theme back, which then means that Ham is a pretty expensive minifigure to get these days. And last but not least, we have Rex, and again, he is fantastic. And Rex is actually built up of 4 different components. You have the tail piece, which connects to the body using one of those blue Technic pins, and then you've also got 2 legs, which essentially just work like the Big Fig arms, again, using one of those Technic joints, which allows him to have quite a lot of mobility, both in the legs and around his tail. Not to mention as well, there is some slight mobility there with his hands, which are all just one sort of rubbery piece. It's quite a rough rubber as well, so I don't think it's gonna have any issues all the time, but his arms can move up and down, which works perfectly fine, you know, considering he's a T-Rex. He doesn't have that much mobility to begin with. There's some studs on the back as well, I guess, if you wanted someone to sit on top of Rex and make it look like he's riding him. And overall, I think this character is fantastic. He's got a printed stomach there to really just add a little bit of extra detail. However, the print is very faint, you know, sort of having that white on green. Besides that though, I mean, his teeth look fantastic and his eyes look fantastic. There's really not that much much space between the top of his head and the eyes, so there's no room for that eyebrow print that they introduced later on. But again, 2010, I mean, this character just looks fantastic. The mold is perfect for him. So then here's the Pizza Planet truck itself, and overall, as a car and as a model, I think it's fantastic. I mean, to me, this definitely does scream early 2010s with just the way it's built and the techniques used, and overall just how it's very, I guess, large, using a lot of really large elements, and just having, I guess, a lot of extra space. I feel like these days, if this set was to exist, it would be a lot more refined, a lot more curved pieces used. I think the interior would be cleaned up a bit, but nevertheless, they captured the iconic design and color scheme, I guess, of these Toyota trucks perfectly. The fact as well that there is that printed Yotile on the back, I think is perfect. And again, you can sort of see what I mean, but I feel like it would just be cleaned up a bit. I feel like this would all be tiled off a little bit more, but I mean, this car is really, really, really well done for what it is. The only real complaint I have with this truck, I mean, doesn't even come down to the model itself. I think it's just the overall thing of the set. I mean, the truck as a scale and just on its own, I think is perfect. I mean, personally, I think the scale is a little too big. With Speed Champions being a thing in like 2022, I mean, this truck is pretty wide, but for what it is, I think it works really well as a standalone piece for a Pixar or a Disney display, or even just a playset overall, which then brings me to the point, I guess, of this set is that the characters really are not in the scale of the truck at all. I mean, technically, it's minifigure scale, but the problem with these minifigures is that they are supposed to be significantly smaller. Like, really, I guess in order to get this scale perfect, the characters needed to be microfigures. Now, that being said, would I prefer microfigures or a bigger car? Absolutely not. I think the set that we have is perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, in a Pizza Planet truck set, you want to have the Toy Story characters and the minifigures, but also this scale I think is perfect. You don't want a set that's too big or too expensive. Like, this to me is fine. And if that means that the truck has to be out of scale with the characters, I don't care. It does look a little bit funny on the box, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would much rather this set stay the way it is than have a bigger car or not have these minifigures included at all. Now, with the topic of scale out the way, let's talk about the actual car itself. Now, there are a couple of notable gaps in the car, which really I think is the only downside to it. I think the overall shape and design is really well done and a pretty clever build. It was nothing too complicated. It was relatively simple, using a lot of really basic bricks, just like a lot of the other sets at the time did. One thing that I love about this car, though, is definitely the printed elements. I mean, all of these window pieces are printed, the doors are printed, the Yotile on the back, and the number plate is printed, and also I guess just how much this car opens up. You can move the windows around and get some minifigures in there. They can sit down on these little chairs, which admittedly isn't actually built up all that well, but we'll get to that later. The entire bonnet as well does open up to expose a play feature. You can take the roof off, you can take this entire back section off. There's just a lot that you can do. So starting off at the front, you can really see, I guess, just how blocky this overall design is, and you have the first little gap here, which could have very easily been fixed by adding another plate to this stack here, and it's just little things like that I feel like are the things that kind of annoy me with this set, but it's nothing too major. I mean, it's an easy modification, so I'm not too mad, but just the front of it does look very blocky and very plain overall. Now, when you pop over the bonnet, instead of having a little engine, there is this tiny little pizza cannon that you can load up with a bunch of these tiny printed pizza pieces, and then you turn the car around and pull on this little section at the back. It activates a pizza to fall down and then can be fired off, using it as sort of a cannon, and that whole feature actually works by having a rubber band built into the body of the car, and then in order to reload the pizzas, you just pop the hood open and slide them down and the whole thing resets. In total, there's like 6 or so in there, so you're not really going to run out of pizza ammo anytime soon. Now, on the side of the car, of course, my favorite thing has to be these printed door panel pieces, which are all built up and attached to the side, complete with some wing mirrors and a tiny little 1x1 tile in order to represent a handle. So these both open up, and then when you take off the back and take off the roof, you can access the inside relatively easily. Now looking down here, you can see that rubber band properly and how that whole play feature works a little bit better. And on each side, there is some stud space in order to attach some of the characters. You can have Buzz sitting down, you can have an alien sat there. I mean, there is quite a lot of space in the inside of the car, which I really like. And even, I guess, just heading into the back, though again, you can see there's quite a lot of gaps underneath those windows and underneath this curved piece here, but nothing is really noticeable from the exterior, so I'm glad about that. I feel like these days, this whole interior section would have been probably cleaned up a little bit and not have so many gaps, or just been, like, I guess, left quite raw open in terms of design. But since you can't really see anything once the truck is really enclosed, I personally don't mind myself. Now heading into the back, there is even more space. I mean, firstly, this entire little white hood section can lean up, and then you can access and sort of have characters sticking out the top if you really wanted to. The Pizza Planet rocket is just a brick built thing. I mean, I would have loved to have seen like a sticker or a printed piece up here, but I think the design overall works really nicely. However, it does pop off quite easily as it's not really latched down all too much. Now this entire back section does pop off quite nicely. It's just attached using this plate here, and the whole thing is pretty secure and nice and easy. And then you have this giant just empty back area. It would have been really cool, I guess, to have some like pizza boxes or some like crushed cans or something. However, it also could very easily fall down into this back section, which isn't completely covered up that well, which is just another small complaint that I have. I mean, I guess you could store some of Buzz's wings and his helmet down there, but I also don't think you'd be getting them out all too easily. But this entire back section opens up ideally so that you can fit Rex in here and have his entire tail sticking out. However, this whole process isn't too simple. I mean, you've got to really lodge and sort of wiggle every piece in individually, and it's a little bit of a pain to get in. I mean, Rex's legs have got to line up, and then you've got to stick them on the plates, and his tail's got to stick out. There's just a lot of components that all sort of fit in, and really, I've never been able to get it quite right, even like taking these pieces apart. I can always get him in, but I can never get his feet to attach really easily. But all of the characters can fit in the car. I mean, you can shove Ham in there and shove Buzz in the passenger seat. They just don't quite look right. Like, I personally just prefer to have them outside of the vehicle. Turning the car around, you can have a better look at that sort of back window piece there where Rex's tail is supposed to stick out. And I mean, at least for me, I'm kind of debating getting one of those like window panel pieces just to completely close off the back, and maybe even get some yellow tile just to clean up the back a little bit more and maybe raise up these red plates. Like, often I don't modify too many sets, and while I think the set is fine as is, there's just so many little small and simple things that I feel like I could personally do just to make it even better. Though even better than the yo is the number plate itself, which says Toy Story and then has 2010 written at the top. It's also got the same color scheme going through it, and then it says RES 1538. So that is the Pizza Planet truck, and this to me is definitely one of the most iconic and sort of relevant things when it comes to Toy Story, and not just that, but Pixar in general, considering how frequent of an Easter egg the Pizza Planet truck is. Now, if you didn't have any Toy Story sets, and I mean, if they were all still on shelves today, I would say to you, like, this is the one to get. If you could get one, this is the set. And I mean, I still think that way, and ironically, this was one of the sets that I never got to have as a kid. I had Woody's Roundup, and I had a couple of the other ones, and I always wanted the Pizza Planet truck, considering, I guess, how prominent it was and just how cool the truck looks in general. And that's one of the reasons why I went and got it as an adult. I mean, this is an expensive set these days, and I imagine that is purely down to just how iconic it is, not to mention how great the character selection is with all of the custom molds. Like, that's just something you do not see these days when it comes to Lego, and even at its price point, I think this is well worth it. The Pizza Planet truck is amazing, it's iconic, it's so identifiable as well. It's just overall a really, really great, solid set, even though it does feel a little bit dated. Hopefully one day Lego does a sort of creator expert version of the Pizza Planet, or even like a Speed Champions sized one. I would absolutely love to buy both of those sets in the future. But until then, at least we have this version. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And let me know what other Disney or Pixar sets that you'd love to see Lego make. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.